Welcome to the Millennial Diner podcast. It's me, Jeff. I'm here at the diner with Phil as usual, and today, all right, buckle your safety belts, people. We got a deal here. What's up, Adil?
What's up, Jeff? What's up, Phil?
Deal is
Thanks for
so
having
great.
me.
Oh yeah, no, it's so great to have you at the diner. I know you're a big diner guy. This is a big deal.
Yep.
Um, let's get right into it. Flo's standing here. She's like, "Why do you always have to introduce the people when you're sitting at a diner? It doesn't make any sense." She doesn't realize we're on a podcast. It's a shame. Anyway, Flo, today I'm just gonna do myself, just a little tofu scramble with a side of sourdough toast, some jam, and I'll do a black coffee today. Not feeling oat milk.
Jeff, Maurice is in the kitchen today. Do you
Oh,
want to amend your order?
yeah. Let me throw some tempeh bacon on there. I like how Maurice makes the tempeh bacon.
Okay.
Adil, what are you gonna get?
My diner staple, which is a cheeseburger deluxe with fries and everything, Swiss cheese, and I will have a coffee with milk and sugar.
Ooh. I always find it interesting the coffee mixed with the burger. It's to me I can't do that, but I appreciate when people do. I don't know why. Maybe it's like
Well, I
hot.
start with the coffee,
Oh, okay.
yeah, while I'm waiting for my wonderful cheeseburger deluxe.
By the way, with the deluxe, do you eat the coleslaw?
I do with the pickle.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Do you get onion rings on the side too, like two onion rings? Do they do that? Usually, they do that here.
They do.
How do you feel about
Most
onion rings?
places, I believe most places, most diners do that, but yeah, gotta have the two onion rings thrown in there.
The onion
And,
rings are intense.
yeah, don't forget the lettuce, tomato,
Oh yeah.
the works.
I knew a guy who I used to work for a guy who had coffee with every meal. Every meal. We could have like we would have pizza as like a store function. He's having coffee.
Hmm. I mean, I guess it does work. I mean, iced coffee, I guess. I don't know. There's something about hot coffee that I feel like I'm just, if it's more of a cakey kind of food, maybe a
Mm.
sweeter food, a pancake, then I can do it. But I feel like if I'm eating,
No,
you
it's
know,
like John, like we're having like pizza and John's having like piping hot coffee from his thermos. Or we went to the food court and again piping hot coffee out of it. I don't. Hey man, I'm not gonna yuck someone's yum. All right. Speaking of that, I'm gonna have rye toast with a little bit of butter and a black coffee. That sounds very good today.
Phil, sometimes I think that your diner order, which is very consistent, is kind of like your religion. But do I dare say a bad religion? That's right. That's right. A deal is here because we're going to be talking about an album called Stranger Than Fiction by the seminal punk rock band Bad Religion. Uh, but before we do that, Phil,
Oh, that
you
was
want
such
to
a that
you
was
want to
such a
respond?
tease. Yeah, that was such a tease. I got ready to like we're
I thought
finally ready to talk about a Bad Religion album, and then we're gonna put a pin in it. We're gonna pause.
I I really thought my segue was going to cause you to like quit the show because it was I'm never going to top that.
I no, I don't think you can. No, and my order is not bad. Sure, it might be a construct, that might fit, but no, it's not a bad order.
What I meant badass.
I know you did. I know it was deep down. It was badass. I know you don't have to get that past me.
All right. Well, people are sick of hearing about you and me, Phil. So let's hear about Adil. Adil, you are a person since I've known you many years ago. You were a punk rock dude. You love the music. Why don't you regale us on like how you got to punk and how you got into the scene and kind of like how you've grown with it over the years?
Okay, so I guess it would have to be eighth grade into ninth grade. Um, that summer, well, first of all, Dookie was released, and
Yeah.
that pretty much changed my life. During that summer, I would say I was staying up late, um, expanding my musical taste, and was watching everything on MTV. Alternative Nation, 120 Minutes, Headbangers Ball, just kind of going right through. But I wanted to find other bands, and Bad Religion. I believe it was 21st Century Digital Boy was the first video, and I was like, "What is this?" And I was like, "I need this album." And actually, can you hang on a second?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You have.
Whoa.
I don't know if you can see that, but it is
Oh my
on.
God,
It's
you have a
that
tape.
I have a tape of Bad Religion.
You
Strangely,
got, and you got that in like 1994?
I got that in 1994, and
Wow.
I don't know why, because I believe I had a CD player back then, but I think that I have a feeling that I got it on tape because I only had a Walkman and not a CD player,
Yeah.
and I wanted to listen to it all the time. And I was like, I was only buying tapes for the Walkman when I knew I wanted to take it with me. Certain albums I have on tape, and yeah, so I discovered Bad Religion through good old MTV. And first day of ninth grade, everybody was wearing a Green Day Dookie shirt, and that's when I
Mm-hmm.
was like, okay, well, this it's not just me that's listening to this stuff. Um, but before punk rock or before I kind of got into like Green Day, right before that, I was kind of in this grunge phase, which I think a lot of people in the early '90s were. And even before that, my only musical uh, experience was like really like listening to what my uncles or my parents were listening to, which
Right.
classic rock, uh, your typical pop music, like I guess Michael Jackson, Prince at the time, Madonna. And then my parents only listened to Hindi and Bengali music. So I was kind of in a little bubble until we got cable and MTV, and it happened to be around that time. And it took off from there.
That's awesome.
I feel like for us, when we first got, because I was the same way with cable. When I first got cable, and I was like, I could watch MTV, back when they played videos. I feel like it's very akin to like the early 2000s where MySpace became a thing. And all of a sudden,
Hmm.
and like the internet became a bigger mechanism for bands to get their music out there. So I feel it was suddenly like cable, and particularly 120 Minutes and Headbangers Ball. It was like I would tape it because that's what I would do so I could watch it later. Because I didn't stay up late. I was a punk rocker who went to bed early. Thanks so
Well,
much.
well, get your sleep. What's funny, Adil? You have a very 90s artifact in that you would have it on tape. I was racking my brain because I remember having this CD
Mm.
and never really listening to it, which we'll get into later. But I'm pretty sure I got it as one of the 10 from Columbia House.
The
Is
Columbia
how
House
I got.
CDs.
Yeah, yeah,
It would make sense. It is an Atlantic record release, so
yeah.
it
So I
would
don't
make
even know. I don't know how it made my radar because I didn't. Bad Religion didn't cross my path until Blink 182 took them on tour in the Enema of the
Mhm.
State tour. That was
Right.
like my first real exposure to them. But that was 99, I think. So
Yeah, that feels right. Yeah, and
yeah,
that's
or no,
and
2000 was that tour. Yeah,
which is funny because at that point, Bad Religion had been around for 20 years.
right. I think Blink wanted to show like their like respect to the punk rock
Mhm.
world, which
Yeah,
is why they brought them out. Yeah.
yeah.
I think that when I heard about Bad Religion, I thought they were a new band coming out in 1994, and then I was like, obviously you, as the internet kind of took over and Napster took over, I was like, wait, there's all these other albums before this, and I was just like, I just kind of went cross-eyed, and I was like, okay. Um, but I kind of had that experience when I was teaching for a few years, just like you, Jeff, um, where it was around the time when American Idiot came out, and my students thought that they didn't have Queen, they didn't have anything else, and I was like, I know this feeling. Okay, you just haven't dug deep yet and known all the awesome stuff that was released before this. So but also going back to that Columbia House thing, Jeff. I mean, I don't know how many CDs I have that I got from Columbia House or even BMG that I just never opened. I was like,
Oh,
Did
BMG. My goodness,
did
we're gonna
you
be
ever pay? Did you ever pay for one full price, or did you just be like, I'm a kid, I can't, you can't
I
make
think
me pay for
I
this?
think I paid a penny and that was it.
Yeah.
I think I ever sent them another check and they just kept sending me stuff. Like, who has a check at 13 years old?
Well, that's the whole thing. That's a problem. Like everybody's like a kid, and they're getting all these CDs, and then the company's like, you need to pay for these, and we're like, no, we don't. Why'd
here.
you send me all these CDs?
Yep, exactly.
Why don't you talk to my mom? I
Yeah.
have no idea what you're talking about. Why did you send me a CD for a penny? It's ridiculous. Who trusted us with such novelty? What a weird thing.
Uh, so it sounds like 94 for you, Green Day, Bad Religion, and I imagine the following year you were well into it, and then we had some Rancid probably came in the like. So tell me more about kind of like I'll step back. We recently saw each other outside the diner, and we were talking. You kind of said something to me where you're like, you appreciate that, like you seem to like never got the message. We're getting old and had to stop going to shows, so uh, we had that in common. So like, you're still in it too to this day, right? You're still, you know, finding bands and going to see your favorite bands. So who are some of your, if I dare say, your Mount Rushmore? We're gonna blow up Mount Rushmore. We're gonna give you Clay, and I don't know, what do you make Mount Rushmore out of, Phil?
Rocks.
So,
Rocks. Who would you put on there?
have you ever been to Mount Rushmore?
I have. It's not as big as you think it is.
I have been too, and you're right. I was like, okay, this is it. It's 15 minutes later, I left.
I also went accidentally during the Sturgis motorcycle convention. So it was me and like 500 bikers, which was really fun.
Oh,
All disappointed about the size of Mount Rushmore.
yeah.
I bet. Well, when we reconstruct it now, we'll make it larger and far more interesting because we'll add some bands to it. So, Adil, who would be on
I
your
mean, Jeff,
first spot? Yeah.
you're right. You know, we didn't get the message about not going to shows anymore once you turn 40. So when I was actually thinking about my Mount Rushmore, I immediately had that Charlie Day meme going to my head. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Where
where it's
kinda
the,
like,
the board with
I
the
just don't
strings.
know. Yeah, like the board. It's just so I actually wanted to throw it back to you guys and say, okay, well, I have two different Mount Rushmores I can discuss.
Yeah.
I discussed my Mount Rushmore, which I don't know if necessarily would have punk in it, maybe one band, or I could do my Mount Rushmore of 1994 of bands that got me into this show.
Ooh. Ooh, this is great. This is new. Actually, Adil, I thought you were going to also say, I could also give you a Mount Rushmore where 311 is just all four of them on there, and I would have accepted that as well.
So I don't know if your listeners know how obsessed I am with 311, but yeah, I am a big fan and go to all their shows and their 311 days and the cruises and all that stuff. But I think I'm getting a little too old for that, so that's cut back quite a bit. But yeah, I'm gonna have you guys pick though. Which one would you like to do?
Phil, what do you like?
I'm down and a little all mixed up.
There it is.
For the 94 bands. I find that very intriguing.
Okay, Jeff.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do a 1994 Mount Rushmore. It's an incredible year, a year where the Stanley Cup was not given out.
I don't remember
Yeah. No one knows who won this.
There was an
So-
asterisk, I think, next to it.
For those at home, this was a group of Islander fans who were still bitter that they had to witness the Rangers break their curse. In 1994, it's fine, whatever. We're mature adults, we can handle it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like Ranger fans went to Madison Square Garden. They would go to the Coliseum to boo the Islanders. You know, just saying.
Yeah. So, well, now they haven't won a cup in almost 30 years. So,
Don't do the math on the Islanders. Yeah.
Don't do the math, but at the very least, at least for one of the few dynasties.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take that. All right.
Yeah.
So what would be your bands from 1994?
So I will go with, I'm going to go band and even the album that got me into them.
Oh,
Excellent.
okay.
Yes.
Let's go right off with Bad Religion. We're going to go Bad Religion, Stranger Than Fiction. Just totally opened the door for a lot of my musical tastes, which we'll be discussing during this podcast.
Adil, I just want to point out you have made history. You're the first person to put the album you're talking about on your Mount Rushmore in the episode. So you're going down in history at the diner.
I will say I listened to a bunch of your podcasts, and I have not. And you're right, I haven't heard anyone except for maybe Devin.
Devin brought in albums, but
he didn't put the album specifically.
Yeah, he didn't put Disintegration on there.
He didn't put Disintegration on there. No, you're right.
So since we're sticking with the 1994 theme of albums, for the Mount Rushmore, I would say the second one would be, I think Jeff would already know this, but Green Day Dookie. Number 3 would be Rancid. Let's go.
I felt like Rancid was coming. Yep. Okay.
And number 4, I don't know if you guys agree with me, but I love this album a ton. It's The Offspring, Smash.
I love that album. Actually, I love everything on your list. It's funny because it's everything I would listen to in 1994.
I have a complicated relationship with Offspring.
Why is it complicated?
I don't know. They're one of those bands that I thought I liked because they were punk, and then one day I was like, I don't really like this band. Not that they're bad. It's just like it's like one of the few sounds that just grates on me a little bit.
Yeah,
It's just
it is it Dexter?
I think it's his voice, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, right.
And
Uh,
I don't like some of the later songs. Like I really don't like "Pretty Fly for a White Guy." Like
no,
yeah,
I'm
so
not a fan there. No, I think there was a interestingly enough, we're going to talk about a band that went on a major label for a little while. But I feel like Offspring, when they kind of would do some major label work, I don't think there was a lot they did. Now that I remember it, but there's a part where I don't like. I like where they're getting back to, but there's definitely a time frame where I was like, I'm all set with you guys for a bit.
I will say "The
Um,
Kids Aren't All Right," which opens the movie The Faculty.
yes,
That song rules.
that's not rules.
But I
Yeah.
also think of The Faculty opening up in that. So
Now I am strictly speaking about Smash though. I'm not.
yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
want to go into some of the other albums because
Well,
yeah, you're right. It's kind of there's definitely been some stinkers in their catalog for sure. But
Smash is a huge album though, because that for a long time was the highest selling indie label album, right? Like that was
Isn't it
Epitaph.
still? I thought
Not
it
anymore.
still
I'm thinking,
was.
is it still? I think something else surpassed it recently. Maybe
But
not.
yes, that is basically what put Epitaph on the map.
Yeah,
Is ironic that you would bring this up. This is also going to matter for this episode. All these things matter.
yeah,
and it wasn't even come out and play because that really didn't do too much for me. It was more like when they released Self Esteem and Gotta Get
Yeah.
Away. And
yeah.
when you listen to all the other songs, it's just so dancey and like and and Bad Habit has the funny hook and
Well,
uh
what's funny, Bad Habit was the first album or the first song where like I had to remember to like turn down the volume, so
yeah.
like my mom wouldn't hear the, dumb shit goddamn motherfucker part where and then I'd like but like I'd like inadvertently bring it up too early and it'd be like motherfucker and I had to like turn it back down really quick. Like my mom yelled at me.
Yeah.
you
It's
know
a punk it's a punk rock I was.
The
I was
trouble, the trouble, the trouble the punks had in the '90s, their mom yelling at them for the lyric content.
I have seen Offspring in the last 10 years or so, and I will say people still go nuts for that song. Let me tell you,
Yeah,
especially that line. So
it's the best part of the song. It's the best part of the song.
I
Uh,
caught them at when we were young actually because they were on right before Blink, and I had gone to see Thrice. Thrice ended at a smaller stage. Ran over to get my spot for Blink, and Offspring was still on. So I said, I guess I'm seeing the Offspring. The first time I've really seen the Offspring, and wasn't too bad. People seem to be having fun.
well,
I'll
that's
give
good.
you this. I'll give you this. I'm going to give you my Mount Rushmore when you invite me back.
I like that. You
I like that. You know what? No,
strategizing. Yeah.
I like the strategy. That's a good strategy. Yeah, Adil, if you were to play one song from one of these bands right this very second, just to, get everybody ready, which one would you play?
Oh, that's a tough one. I know we probably talk about the Offspring the most, but so I'm not going to bring that in. We're not going to talk about Bad Religion because hey, we're going to be playing those songs now. So
Well,
do
you
you
could play. I mean, you could do anything from their catalog, assuming we could find it on Spotify. But you could play it on their catalog.
I know a Rancid song I would go with, but
hold on?
I'm not gonna say.
Anything from their catalog?
Yeah, anything, anyone, anything from any of these bands.
Yeah,
You know
not
what?
to narrow down your choice at all.
I
No.
wanna I wanna do. Let's do Green Day, The Grouch. Probably my favorite
Yes,
song.
Ooh.
yes.
All right, I love every second of this. All right, let's go.
All right, here is the Grouch, off Green Day's album
Nimrod.
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 Here we go. Adil, you come into the diner and you just throw down the Grouch from Green Day. We love this. We love this so much. Uh, you know how the Millennial Diner works. You know how to get into our good graces. Um, so 1994 is when this album came out.
94.
94. It came out September 6th on Atlantic Records, which is a big deal because that means it's their major label debut.
This is the major label debut of the band. Yes, it is. After having been around for roughly 14 years or so, but they started off when they were kids.
Which means that I think we need to say happy birthday because this episode is going to be posted in 2024, which would make it the 30th anniversary of this record.
That's right. Oh, that's crazy to think. Yes, there'd be the 30th anniversary of this. 94 is gonna have a lot of not 2024 is gonna have a lot of birthdays. You got
Yeah,
everything
all the deals Mount
entire
Rushmore are
list.
turning
Yeah,
30 next. Well, now this year because it's
this
2024.
that's right.
Uh, okay, Atlantic Records. They, as Adil mentioned earlier, they had a lot of albums before that. I think this is their eighth.
Eight.
Am I? Yeah, this is
Eighth at
their
this
eighth
point.
album. So on their eighth album, they go to a major label in the year. I feel like '94, if you look back at it, is really like the post, like Nirvana ends and pop punk kind of takes over. You
Right.
know what I mean? It just really kind of that's the transition there. And then '94 for us, I feel like all of us who are into this kind of music is like the starting point of the next 15, 20 years of punk, pop punk, emo, all this stuff kind of starts in '94, and becomes very popular. Um, it's produced by Andy Wallace.
Wallace,
Yep,
Andy Wallace.
who
Yeah.
we've seen a few times come
Hmm.
up. He has produced many great albums. Um, and then the other big thing about this is their longtime guitar player Brett Gurwitz leaves the band after recording the album. Correct?
He does. So, like, this was where it was interesting. This whole thing's very interesting because at this point, Brett is the mastermind behind Epitaph.
Yeah.
Like, that's his company. And at this point, like Adil said, Offspring drops Smash, which is, if not the biggest, one of the biggest independent album, and that basically put Epitaph on the map. But at this point, or prior to that, let's go back. Bad Religion has always been on Epitaph, coming because Greg and Brett are the two songwriters. They're the brains behind the band. They're like the Lennon McCartney of the punk world. And then suddenly they decide to sign with Atlantic, which is like, everybody's going back, like Bad Religion, like one of the original like LA bands. Like they would play with, they're like, just to give you some point of reference. Bad Religion's first show they would play with is with Social Distortion, and they were all kids. And just at the same time, they would have played with like the Descendants. They would have played a lot with the SoCal bands that you would see in the early '80s. They were the early adopters of the hardcore punk rock scene.
They
And
play with
then
Black Flag. Black Flag as
they,
well.
I'm pretty sure they've had to. I can't speak of me knowing one right off the top of my head, but I'd be remiss to think they never did. And so they came from that scene. So selling out was a big to do, which is where this kind of mentality came from, where they sold out and went to a major label. Now at this point, '94, all the bands are hitting major labels because Green Day came out in Reprise. Um, Even Rancid, I think their first like isn't Let's Go off on a major label, or is that on Epitaph? Now I think about it. Anyway, but Smash I know is definitely on Epitaph. And then you have Bad Religion, like one of the grandfathers of like that kind of sound, signing with a major label. And this caused a lot of friction with the band, particularly between Greg and Brett. They'll say it didn't, but it did. Now, he did the album. He wrote he wrote most of the songs because it's only 15. He wrote eight of the 15 songs. They produced the whole thing, made it, got it all set up, ready to go. And Greg's like, you know what? Or Brett's like, you know what? I'm all set. I'm done. And he claimed it was because he wanted to go run Epitaph more because of how big essentially Offspring had gotten. But there wasn't he always was the one who was more reserved about signing to Atlantic, and it showed. So they went separate ways. Brett went to go run Epitaph for the rest, takes off the next 4 albums, doesn't come back because that's the line that the Bad Religion uses for Atlantic. And then he'll come back later on. And they
Mm-hmm.
come back and play one of their best albums ever, which is The Process of Belief. Now, who comes on to add a little cred is Brian Baker. Brian Baker played a Dag Nasty. He played a Minor Threat. He was like actually, if I remember right, he was auditioned. It's funny, he auditioned and had gotten the job to play the backup guitar player for REM, but turned it down to come play with Bad Religion. And then so now you have Brian Baker takes over where Brett would have been. Greg takes over, going the next 4 albums as the sole writer of the songs. Granted, the next 4 they do aren't, I don't think they're best, but I think there's some pretty good hits in the next 4 albums. But for me, Stranger Than Fiction was for like Adil, like you said, this was my entryway into Bad Religion. And then I learned, I'm like, oh, there's so many albums they had before this. You go from How Could Hell Be Any Worse, which is the first one, into The Unknown, which I've listened to a few times and I would love to get a copy, but no one ever has a copy of it. But then you get into the run of Suffer No Control, Against the Grain, and Generator, and The Recipe for Hate. And that's when then they end up on Atlantic and do this album, Stranger Than Fiction.
And I agree with Phil. There is a big difference over the next couple of albums until Process of Belief, and you can see
Yeah.
the difference when they release Process of Belief. That I mean, I jump started right back into Bad Religion during that time too. So like,
Yeah.
it was definitely known.
There's
the
there's
sound.
there's bangers on the next 4 albums. There's some, but they're not the albums aren't as complete when it's just, I think, just Greg. I think the band works the best when it's Greg and Brett put together.
I agree.
So this will be the last one for 3 because the Gray Race, No Substance, and New America are all just Greg.
Well, you guys know a lot about Bad Religion, but have either of you seen them in Japan?
I have I may be wearing a Bad Religion T-shirt that happened to come from Japan.
Yes. I
Yeah.
got very lucky on my trip to Japan that Bad Religion was playing a little punk festival. So I had the surreal experience of hearing American Jesus in Tokyo.
That's got it. That's gonna
I'm
be very
jealous. I'm
strange.
jealous.
I'm
It was
very
it was
yeah.
awesome.
And you saw my chem.
Well, yeah, Mike Chem was the headliner, which is
That was this year, right? Was that this year? Earlier this year?
It was earlier this year. Well, 2023. Yeah. Yeah, broke my brain. Did not plan that. Just one day was like, I'm going to Japan, and then didn't really look ahead. And then one day I saw like on Mike Chem's Instagram saying like, "Oh, we're off to Japan." I'm like, "Oh, I wonder when they're going to be there." Oh, when I'm there, and oh, Bad Religion is playing with them too. Oh, I guess I'm going to that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of BR. I have been a big fan since this album. If anybody's interested, Jim, you should read the book "Do What You Want," which is a story of Bad Religion written by Jim Ruland. That was a lot of fun because actually it's the whole band. Also, Greg puts out a memoir of himself, whose title I don't recall. Oh, Punk Paradox, which is an interesting book because it's just him and a memoir about him, and also having grown up as an academic, dealing with trying to be a very smarty pants in Wisconsin, but also living in SoCal and trying to be a punk rocker.
I didn't know he was from Wisconsin. I didn't know he's from Wisconsin.
He is originally from Wisconsin, and he is an avid Wisconsin sports fan.
Interesting. I always thought he was an LA guy. That's interesting. Okay.
No,
cool.
They came product of divorce. His father was in Wisconsin, and his mom moved out to SoCal as both working in college.
Pretty cool. Well, now that we're up to speed on Bad Religion, on the band Bad Religion, should we dive into this album, Stranger Than Fiction?
We should dive in. We're gonna go right into the first album. The first album. Good job, Phil. The first song, which is called "Incomplete." I remember hearing this for the first time, and now remember, Dookie came out first, like Adil said, and I was like, okay. And we talked about this in the very first episode we ever done, Jeff. That Dookie came out, and I remember going like, "Wow, this is a sound how I feel." Right? Sonically, this is the way and I was like, this seems like a scene I would like to dip my toe in. And then this album came out, and I listened to it, and I was like, now I am hooked on this because Bad Religion brings a different element to it, and it's basically a lot of words. Yeah,
big words.
A lot of big words. Bust out the thesaurus. You better be ready to handle it. And I remember the first time playing the album where this song comes out very bombastically, very big, very in your face. And I remember hearing this and, being 14 or whatever it was. I was like, I too feel incomplete. Thank you for summing up how I feel at the moment. That's exactly how I feel. I feel incomplete.
And you just say incomplete, incomplete.
Incomplete. Yep.
Yeah, I think something was incomplete in me, and I was like, I think it's this album. I started getting a little more complete.
Yeah, right? Yeah. No, I was like, other people feel like how I feel, and I feel good about this. Like, they're talking about being incomplete. I'm like, it helps with Mother, Father, look at your stupid little monster. I'm like, am I a monster? Is that how I am? I guess maybe I am. I don't know.
Well, he uses these paradoxes to kind of describe everything, and it's like
Yeah,
everything is like I'm a hero, I'm a zero. You know,
Yeah.
right.
I'm a lock without a key. It's like all these things. I'm a show without a score. I'm a bad word, a wink, a nod. Like all these things are just keep like don't make sense. And when you're hearing that, you're like, yeah, how, you can you? It's weird to not realize you can be all these things.
Yeah, and the
Right.
paradox continues the whole song. Like, I mean, how many can you have in one song? And it just keeps going. Like, Jack without an ace, a track
Hmm.
without a spring. Um, just the temple window god, right? So like, he just, I love it right off the bat. I loved it. And
Uh,
and you're right. And Phil, you're right. You need a thesaurus because when I was a little kid and reading the lyric book, I was like, as we get into some of the otother songs, it's
Yeah.
like,
a little kid, I was using a
not little, you're
thesaurus the other
13,
day when I was
13, 13.
re-listening to
But yeah.
it.
I, well, yeah, it's just, it's a very on the nose song, which is I think, although I think they like to use a lot of big words, I do think they want to be understood, and
Hmm.
so often I think their choruses. We Jeff, on the show, we've learned to always check out the bridge. That's where like
Yeah,
the secret sauce is. I don't think it's as big or as prevalent on this one. Definitely the chorus is where it'll look. And basically, he's incomplete. He's giving you all these examples of why he's incomplete. He's even asking to be fixed. Like it's not like he's like Doctor Cure me. I would love to be not like this, but yet
Mhm.
here I am. My favorite is always the like bullets smashing glass in a silent movie. I always like. He wants that to be such a sound. I'm like, that's such a visceral,
that's awesome. Yeah,
like visual to think about is what that would be. I'm also a good intention gone bad. That's that sounds like something's gone well bad. That was a
yeah.
terrible segue. That was terrible,
No, I
Phil.
was gonna say it would. I feel like this podcast would be incomplete if we didn't play incomplete.
100%.
There
All
you go.
right. Here is the first track on Bad Religion, Stranger Than Fiction, incomplete. We listened to the first track. It rules. What a great way to start an album. I can see a young Phil having his hair blown back when he heard this. Uh, you know, get a haircut, Phil. That's what I would have said to you at the
Yeah,
time.
sorry. I know,
Uh,
right? I was a hippie. I had a bowl cut and everything. It was a terrible time in my life.
well, bowl cut aside, I think a logo and how you look is very important. A name is very important. We kind of jumped over this. This is our first Bad Religion episode, so I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about their name and their iconic logo.
Also, I'm going to appreciate the fact you said it is the first Bad Religion episode, which implies more.
Well, Phil, if you're gonna let me do all the Fall Out Boy records, I feel like I can do a couple Bad Religions for you.
Fair enough. A couple of that's okay. Yes, I appreciate that. Yeah, let's talk about their name. Let's start with the name. What do you get when you guys think Bad Religion? What comes to mind? Like, what is that? What kind of emotion or feeling do you get just when you say that's a bad religion? What do you get?
I mean, I always thought Bad Religion is like almost like what's bad? Religion.
So very on the Deal. What about you? Like, what do you what conjures in your mind when you do that or say
Yeah,
that?
I guess when this album came out and I first heard of them, I kind of thought like religion is bad, and but I guess now I kind of just think not like religion is bad, but um, just like there might be parts of religion that's bad, I guess, right? Or
Mm,
like
yeah.
Yeah.
maybe way of thinking might kind of contain you and not like you might not think out of the box sometimes as much, and I think that's along that line. What about you, Phil?
For me, it was like, oh yeah, like religion is bad. And like at that point, I was a very questioning person, and I was like, maybe religion is bad. But like, so I had the same kind of vibe. But over the years, because look, when they came up with this, they were 15, right? And
Right.
so it's funny that I come across them when I was like 15, and I was like, yeah, the same thing popped in my head. I'm like, yeah, that's bad. That's right. But really, it's just I remember watching an interview with them where they were on like a cable access, and they basically were just explaining that it's anything that puts on a controlling mechanism is a bad religion, right? So religion
Yeah.
could be in that, right? But religion that is meant to control, right? Not allowing you to free think, like you just said, and have your own thought and to be an individual that's gonna pay out later on in the album, to be an individual and to think for yourself, and that's really at the heart of it, that's what they want.
Yeah.
But also when they remember they're 15, they also created the logo, which is by far one of the best punk rock logos of all time. What's it called?
Crossbuster.
Crossbuster. What a fun logo! Like such an evocative image to see right
Well,
away.
in this audio medium, could you describe it for the listeners?
I can't. So imagine the Ghostbusters logo where they're saying no to ghosts, but instead it's the like a cross, and
Yeah.
it's no cross.
Yeah, it's a very powerful, evocative logo. And in fact, it's funny when you say the name Bad Religion, I visually picture the logo. Like,
It's the first thing I think of. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and it's
Yeah,
like a classic punk
that's
logo.
a classic punk. It's like a universal. Like it's one of those things where you ever see those tests where you like, hey, guess the logo, like the name of this logo. I feel like you put that up there, everyone's gonna say Bad Religion, whether you like them or not. You'll know that's Bad Religion.
It's like a Black Flag logo. Everyone knows the Black Flag logo.
Yeah.
Might not even know what Black. You couldn't even name a song, but everybody you know the logo.
Three lines, 3 bars.
Just three. You know, Henry Rollins didn't realize it was supposed to look like a wave, like a waving flag for the longest time.
Well, Henry Rollins and Jeff Hirsch are in the same boat because I didn't realize that either until just now.
It really? Yeah, it's supposed to be like a flag like waving. Yeah.
Did not realize there was no flag waving either. So I'm with
Really?
Jeff.
Is it just me? It's just me. All right.
This has been happening a lot to me. I recently saw a film called Godzilla -1,
Oh.
and I couldn't figure out. I didn't understand why it was called -1, and then my friend's like, "Well, it's a prequel, so it's -1." I'm like, "Oh."
Oh.
Anyway, that movie rules. So check it out.
I've heard it's good.
It's a fantastic film. It should be since it's 2024. It should be streaming now.
That's also true. Did either one of you get the Crossbuster shirt?
I have the Crossbuster shirt.
Do you?
I had one. I don't know what happened to it.
I think I bought that the same day I bought a Dead Kennedys t-shirt.
I also
Another great logo.
I did make the mistake of wearing that Crossbuster shirt while going from California to New York and crossing through the Bible Belt.
How'd that go for you?
Oh boy. Okay.
It's not fun. Well, I will say we stopped at a gas station and or maybe we stopped at a restaurant, I can't remember. But someone came up to me and started asking me questions about the shirt because he sees the cross with the Ghostbusters no logo cross against the and that shirt saying Bad Religion, and I calmly, being a brown man in the Bible Belt, trying not to die, had to explain to him that it is a band, it is their logo, I don't have anything against the cross, and it kind of ironed out from there. But yeah, I immediately took the shirt off.
That's terrifying.
That's terrifying. I'm terrified for you.
Yeah, that shirt does not fit me anymore, so I do need a new shirt though. Actually, I need a new hoodie. I'm gonna get a Bad Religion hoodie next.
That's sick.
Yeah, I would like one from Japan.
I wish I had known that because I was going to Japan and Phil's like, "Hey, while you're in Japan, get me this exclusive Bad Religion Japanese shirt they're putting out." So I did. It was really
it's one of my favorite T-shirts I own.
It's pretty sick.
You know what? If I knew you saw My Chemical Romance, if I knew that Bad Religion was playing, then I would have definitely said something to you and requested one.
Well, now I feel a bit terrible.
That's okay.
All right.
Next time, you'll randomly see them somewhere in another country, and I'll be like, "Get me that shirt."
Somehow, yeah, it's funny. By my experience seeing Bad Religion, it's like I think I've gone to a couple Bad Religion shows at one point, like in the mid 2000s. I saw them in New York City. I saw them in Buffalo, of all places, with a former guest in the pod, Michael Bear. And then from that, I saw them at Warped Tour a bunch of times. So like, I've seen them a lot for a band I wasn't like fully into, and I've always enjoyed seeing them. So
they put on a good show. I will say this, Adil, that you're gonna leave my T-shirt to me, and we're gonna talk about the next song.
Leave mine to me.
Leave mine to me.
I gotta tell you guys, listening to this song in 2024 4. Uh, wow, this really saw the future, huh?
Yes, it did.
Oh
This
yeah.
is a staple of their shows, though. Still,
Last time I went to go see them, I mean, the last few times they definitely haven't been playing songs from this album, but this definitely used to be a staple, and this is definitely one of my favorite songs.
yeah, this is still. It's so again, it's a song that is speaking. It's funny how they never really saw themselves as a political band, and I'm always like, yeah, I disagree because I always see
It's
them
so
as
political.
it's such a political song, and it's talking about the differences with people. I mean, there's us and them. A lot of the times, Bad Religion's about us versus them, and however you want to placate who's in which camp, that's fine. But I love the part here they talk about walking this fragile line, and that if it would make any difference whatsoever today, he would take himself out if it would make any difference to make it better for everybody else. But there's so many that are just like I'm just lost in the fray.
I still can't get over the prescient nature of it. Like this idea of like you create your own reality and leave mine to me, which is
Yeah.
what's happened, with social media. Like people live in their own realities and they don't connect anymore, more
Right.
so than ever. And that this was written in the early 90s and like we weren't there yet, but he was like saying to do that. And now look what happens when you do that. It's
Well, it even makes me think of when I hear people. I've heard a lot of people in the past say like, "Well, speak your truth," which is funny because truth is a fact. Your
right.
truth would imply it's an opinion. Just gonna throw that out there. But like, it harkens back to it. Just there's dissent between people is really what they always go back to. And I think at the end, Barrel Lynch and they always want. I feel are a communal band. They want things to be better. They want people to wake up and to reconnect with each other. Because I've said it before. I'll say it again, Jeff. Community, not competition. I get a lot of that from this band where they care more about people showing the ills of the world so that maybe we can be better and learn from it. That's it. That's all
That's
I got.
great. That sounded like your own fact, and sometimes facts are stranger than fiction,
Stranger than fiction. I tell you, this song.
including. So track 3 is the titular track. We have the album's named for this song. Um, I this one's interesting. It starts off with kind of like a really fun riff.
Yep.
It's like a little bouncy, and then it's like then you listen to the words.
And then it changes very quickly. It's one of
Yeah.
the first songs I ever learned to play on the guitar.
Oh,
And I think it's really just the goal to figure out how many literary references can we get into one song. Except at the beginning. Although I think supposedly there's a reference in the beginning. Yeah. But let's just talk about like there's like bad stuff happening to kids right in the beginning, isn't there?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think this also kind of carries on from the last song. And just again talks about the ills of society, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
just some
Mm-hmm.
of the things that are happening. And again, you're going to compare it to today's world.
Yeah.
Still, people hungry and starving, and are poor, and it's crazy that 30 years later we're talking about the same stuff. And this album still makes sense, and this song still makes sense.
No, it's and there's a 100% like that's the thing. Like I'm listening to this album now, and I'm like, oh, nothing's changed. I mean, some things have, but not. But then you hear this, you could write this song today. Um, I know there's a lot of big words. The line that like I was obsessed with is "Curiosity killed the Kerouac cat,"
Yeah.
because because that to me is 100% it. Like it's almost like curiosity is up caring, but like
Yeah.
curiosity, right?
Curiosity.
But
Right.
it feels like in this world, the more you care, the more danger you put yourself in. Like we're like the world is trying to tell everyone not to care for each other,
Right.
and yeah, I love curiosity. I need
Well, and it's funny because of all
That's a
the
great word.
yeah,
Like the way he used that word and saying Kerouac cat, instead of just curiosity killed the cat. And just a genius of Greg. Um, in his writing. But my favorite is at the end where he's just saying that just life is the crummiest book I ever read. Like,
Yeah.
really,
It's funny because it a lot of times in a live show, it's live. It's the shittiest book I ever read, and it makes me go back and a lot of the times on this album, songs from this album, he'll change lyrics into swear words, but in the live show, she always been wondering if he dialed it back for Atlantic, because Greg and Brett, they have potty
Mhm.
mouths. One thing aspect of this song I love is also just bringing in the concept. You have all these writers, literary people are referenced. You've got
Hmm.
Kafka with a cockroach, Kerouac's mentioned. There's Cradle for a Cat, so it's Cat's Cradle, which would be Vonnegut. One I always thought was with Woolf. I always thought it was Virginia Woolf, but the internet says otherwise. But they say it's Thomas Wolfe, but I still say it's Virginia Woolf.
Yeah.
But even Hemingway is brought in there.
Well,
And
that
what's
line too. I want to know why
oh
Hemingway cracked.
Mhm.
He's like put like look what life did to him. You know what I mean?
right,
Like, yeah,
right. So here are all these literary people. If you look at the lives, it didn't end well for a lot of them.
no.
And it's like they all had a struggle. I mean, struggle to find create. So I'm like, my gut was always like with this song is, do you have to struggle to be creative? Is that where this is also going? Um,
I think
but maybe
maybe not struggle to be creative, but like, yeah, struggle. I think just struggle in general. I think he's
yeah,
talking about the majority of the world it struggle to survive, and I don't want to go too far into it because I think there's other songs in this album that kind of reference that kind of like that 1% top 1% outlook
oh yeah,
around the
oh yeah.
world, and we'll get to that later. But I think that's kind of what he's talking about here. He really wants to say like, most of us struggle,
Yeah.
and shouldn't be like that.
And remember, this is there's a reference. The title itself is a reference to Mark Twain, because the rest of it is truth is stranger than fiction. So really, when you get down to it, you can't make this shit up.
Yeah.
That's what this. I think what ultimately was getting to is that like you have all these writers who like you can't make up the shit the struggle that people go through.
But yeah, Adil, I agree with you. I think he's using the writers as an example to say like all of us, because
Yeah,
we're all the same. We're all struggling through this crummy book of
Yeah,
life.
exactly. Exactly. I think this is one of the best title tracks ever written in
Yeah.
I'd
in
agree.
you know.
And there's also some maudlin, mundane things with like besides all this, I still get the morning paper and it's got stuff in it, and it's got the obituary in there, which means people just die, and all just it's just as the world moves on, all these bad things will happen, and you can't. But I mean, we kind of ignore it because it gets a maudlin thing. It's just something we kind of just live with.
Well, on this positive note, should we play this song?
Yeah. Yes, let's please play the song.
All right, here is Stranger Than Fiction.
Do you
These
hear that, Jeff? Do you hear it?
we'll hear what, Phil?
The tiny voice. That's what. Do you hear it?
Tiny Voices?
Yeah. Do you hear them?
Yeah, I do. They're coming from this new song, track 4, Tiny Voices. Uh, what do you guys think about Tiny Voices?
The echoes of our heritage are long and sallow faces turn the other way. That's what I think about tiny voices. All the things you don't want to listen to.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, look,
Yeah.
maybe it's your conscience. Maybe it's just your things from your past. I don't know, but it's all the things you just want to ignore, like big time.
Nightmares from the past for sure.
Yeah, just I don't want to. I'm just gonna look the other way. And he's calling it out. I mean, this is Greg calling it out that this is not a good thing because they'll never go away if you keep ignoring them.
Yeah, I mean, not just the things like your past. I mean, this is to me, it's outright like people turning their back on their fellow humans.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, and it's always been like this, and that's the echoes of heritage, right? Like, it happened before, yet we're still doing this. People are still not helping their fellow human.
Because we're asleep. Like I like that's one of my favorite lines. So in somewhere in our black subconscious minds, when we're asleep, comes a haunting, swelling mass of voices resonating. It's resonating. It screams of forgotten victims and the cries of innocence and the desperate plea for recognition and recompense. I feel like this is the first song we get to on the album that there's like a need for Greg to get this lyrically out.
Hmm.
Like it's a very Springsteen feel to it where he needs to get this said, which I don't think we had in the first three, but you definitely have it here. Because he's trying to give you an image like, hey, things are we're kind of taking where we left off with the last time. Things aren't good, and we need to acknowledge that and not ignore it anymore.
Spoiler alerts for the people at home. Nothing's going to get good here. I mean, this is really Bad Religion is not afraid to turn the light on the shit. So
Nope, they are not. They're not at
Yeah,
all.
again, the whole like, I don't think they want to kind of be political, but they're pretty political.
yeah,
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is something to do with his own self or if he's talking about what's going on in the world at the time. But again, you can kind of compare it to the world, and it still stands today.
They never saw themselves as a political band, which is funny because it's such a left-leaning um, band. And even Greg's talked about, what did Greg say? He said, if you go to the religious side of it, he never said he saw himself as an atheist. He saw himself more of a naturalist, while Brett was kind of more of I mean, it's funny, the Do What You Want book is interesting because he brings up how Brett's Jewish. And early punk rock, there's a lot of anti-Semitism. Um, there's a lot of anti-Semitism as it is,
yeah.
and he talks about that particularly in that early punk rock scene where the negative vibe came in, where a lot of the shaven heads,
The skinheads, yeah.
the skinheads came in, and like that's why the early albums he's known it's always listed as Dr. Brett or Mr. Brett as Mr. Brett because he didn't want his last name on it because they didn't want it to realize that it was a Jewish singer-songwriter up there. So
Wow.
so yeah, so I mean that's why if the early albums it's Mr. Brett, and that's the reason he didn't want that out there. Again, if you're Bike BR, Do What You Want is a great book to read. Very matter of fact. Everything's done by interviews, which was pretty cool.
Bill, if you met Bad Religion, would you give them a handshake?
I don't know. They have an interesting opinion of a handshake. I
Yeah, I was
mean,
gonna
so
say that was a trick question.
I love the trick question. It was a good one. I might give a nice little pound, maybe a pound explode, like something. But I don't know if I'd go with the handshake as a vehicle for our introduction.
This is the fifth track, the handshake. I love this. I mean, again, I listened to this album many years ago. I knew basically two songs off of it. Well, I'm being honest. So like this week going through it again, I was like listening to a lot of these songs kind of for the first time. This is the this is the first one where I was like, whoa, because
Yeah.
taking the idea of like who can you trust out there and who's and it's like not no one, it's like really
No
is
one.
like keep your guard up.
Yeah, you can
Right.
shake anyone's hand, and you don't know how two-faced they are, and that's why my favorite lyric from this whole album is in this song, and its handshakes are nothing but a subtle fuck you.
Yeah, so good.
A 15-year-old me, 14-year-old me was like, yeah, that's right. A handshake's nothing but a subtle fuck you. I mean, it. I love this song because it's one showing the frivolity of a handshake, but it also brings such a dynamic thought to, well, I guess it does kind of show you where you stand or where you are and like who do you shake hands with? I mean, that's what's are you on their side? You're shaking hands with them. Like it's just something as because growing up, you see your I would see my dad. My dad was in business, and I would watch him, shake hands, and like, there's a deal has been made, or some type of negotiation, or some type of contractual some contractual obligation has been made out of a handshake, some meaningless act that we do, and interesting to hear all of it. That basically, toward the end, if you won't uphold your side, it's better to fend for yourself. Defending for yourself is the opposite of a handshake, right? Handshake's supposed
Yeah.
to be like coming together, and that's you're saying now you're sticking go off on alone. You're on your own.
Well, Phil, I'm glad you brought up like seeing your dad do a business deal because
Yeah.
that's what I really was taking away from this. Like he has this line, "This is the way of the modern world. Everyone's vying for patronage."
Patronage, right? Great word.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's like that's the thing. The handshake is bullshit because it's just so they can get something that they need from you.
Right? That's all it is. They're just trying to negotiate something from you. And
Yeah,
and that's what the point of this whole song is.
He says, but he also says, now I believe in unity and I'm willing to compromise, but I'm not going to lie or sell my soul.
Right.
So it's not saying like you can't trust anybody in your life, but like you have to like true to yourself and protect yourself.
And
And
I think he also, sorry to cut you off. I think
okay.
when he says that, I think he feels like he wants you to kind of make that decision at the end. Where he's like, shun the handshake. He's like, you don't have to, if you don't believe in it or you don't believe that person or the deal or whatever it is, like don't agree to it. Stand up for it. Don't
Yeah.
agree to it. And I think that's a very important message that might sometimes get missed in this song.
I'm glad you said that because I've always felt that way. That in the end, the song, it's like a lot of barrels. It's like he's like they're presenting you the issue, and then they
Yeah.
want you to make a decision based off that, which I think
Yeah.
ultimately is what barrel. Because honestly, if they're gonna go against what their whole purpose is that if they're gonna control the way you think,
Mm-hmm.
that is against what they are, because they are a group that care more about you thinking for yourself. And he's just presenting the case. Like here it is. The handshake can be seen very negatively. And I always love this song because I feel it does show both sides to it. But it also could be community. He even says, I believe in unity.
Yeah.
Like we may holding hands together is a way to bring to unity. But he's like, look, but I'm not gonna like sell my soul to get unity or to get a contractual obligation from somebody. It's a great song for that, that it's illustrating kind of the two sides that there is to a handshake. Ironic, because a handshake is itself, it's a two-sided thing. Yeah.
Well, and you know what? This kind of hits the point you were saying earlier, like how they don't see themselves as a political band. And like when I'm hearing you say that, I'm like, but they are. But then I'm like, no, you're right. They're not. What they're doing is exactly that. When I say earlier they turn the light on and show you the shit, they're just trying to inform you of what it really
Right.
is, and then you take that what you will.
But they're not going to make up your mind for you. They want
Right.
you to think for yourself and
Yeah.
to act like, what do you here's where we think about handshakes. How do you feel about a handshake? How do you feel about a handshake? Do you like handshakes?
I feel like they can go away.
Mm. I got
Personally.
particularly the last few years, I've been very like, I don't need to touch it. It's fine. Just, maybe like an elbow bump or
But
something. I
because
don't know.
it's just another thing that becomes like a comparative thing. Like people are like, oh, that's your handshake, a little weak there. It's like, well, what does that mean? Like, who cares? Like,
Yeah. You don't know
yeah,
me, bro. I might
yeah.
have
It's like, yeah.
an injury that means I can't
"Grr,
shake hands well.
Give me a hard shake there, young man. Like, oh, please, lick off my hand,
I
sir.
feel the pound is much better.
Yeah, the
Pound,
pound.
yeah, the pound's good. I like the pound. Yeah, the
Pound is
pound's
good.
okay.
You don't have to shake someone's sweaty hands and call it a day.
You don't know where they've been.
I
That's
don't. How many people you see walk out of the bathroom without washing their hands? Let
see,
me.
that's the first thing I
Start with
thought
that.
of. I mean,
Too
yeah,
many.
Start with
it's almost like you'd be better off dead than shaking someone's hand. Of course, we're
that.
going to talk about the 1985 movie that is pure wackiness and amazingness with
Yeah, I'm glad we're going to talk about the movie, Phil, because I was going to say, can't not play the handshake.
yeah, I know you cannot play the handshake.
Here is the handshake, and then better off dead. Sorry, Phil, to get you off your. You were about ready to launch into your diatribe about John Cusack's classic film, Better Off
I,
Dead. Please
I,
continue.
I mean, are we not going to talk about how great that movie is? I mean, Savage Steve Holland and his amazing movie with Booger in it before Booger. No, I think Booger had been Booger at this point, but he was like, you saw the soft side of Booger, which was nice to see. Nothing in that movie makes sense.
So, is this song about God apologizing for making a disappointing universe? Because that's what I
It's
think it is about.
That's definitely what I think it is. Or at least one relationship. Somebody apologizing in a bad relationship. It definitely feels that way.
I'm gonna go with relationship as well. I think that there was someone that loved someone that didn't love him back as much, and maybe complained about everything, never satisfied, never happy. Maybe think of one of your ex girlfriends that was like that, like no matter what you did. And I think I always sense sarcasm in these lyrics for this song.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
I'm sorry about the sun. How could I know that you would burn? Like, oh, like this, like, oh, here's the sun that creates life, but then you burn from it, right? Um, you disapproving of the moon for whatever reason. I don't know why. And just no matter what he did, was never good enough, and he feels like he's just going to be better off dead.
Yeah. Why don't
Yep.
why don't you try pushing daisies instead? You know.
Mhm.
It's sarcasm. I think Jeff, I like that perspective though. That it's God
Well,
apologizing to the no, but it sounds like it. You can hear it.
no, but that's like, but I think that's the ridiculous metaphor of
Yeah.
like literally like God being like, ugh, you know, because I think there is that too. But yeah, I agree with Deal. I think there is this like, yeah, this is an emo song from Bad Religion, I guess. Is
I think
where
it's an emo song, and he's just like I said, just really being like overly dramatic and sarcastic, and it's great. Like I love it.
I'm always here for when BR's sarcastic.
Yeah.
Oh, there's not much more you can do with this one. This is pretty on the nose.
yeah, yeah, Phil. Did I ever tell you infect me?
Do I affect you?
Infect.
Oh, that's different.
Well, you
Yeah.
affect me.
Yeah,
Oh.
oh yeah, that's true. This is the song where I learned I'm like, oh, affect to effect mean two different things.
Yeah, it's a very important lesson.
What do you think about infected?
I mean, this is like one of their most famous songs, I feel like.
Yep.
It you could hear this, you could, I don't know, the way it starts, it's just got this intensity to it. Now here I go, I hope I don't break down. Um, I mean the song rocks.
Do you know what that's what
There's a reason why it kind of like became a staple and kind of I think it was a radio song too.
it was? It was their big hit. It was on the radio. I think it was like their second single in 94. Written by Brett. You know what's really funny though? You even brought it up that the now here I go, hope I don't break down.
Yeah.
He's literally talking about his car.
Really?
So yeah, at one point, Brett basically was like so full of drugs and he was an addict and he always talks about it. And when there's a documentary called All Along the Way where he talks about it. And the opening of it, he's like, "No, here I go. I hope I don't break down." It was literally about his car. He actually got into his car to drive out into the desert. And the car had been basically kind of like clunking out, and that's part of it is that's where that's coming from. Although you take it from an addict's perspective, like here I go, hope I don't break down, and do drugs.
Well, I mean, but then it's like, but I think that fits too with the rest. Like, don't want to
Yeah.
exist. I can't persist. Please stop
Mhm.
before I do it again.
Right.
You know,
It's song about addiction is really what it comes down
yeah.
to. Yeah, that's what it is. And it's this terrible relationship in which they find themselves. And
I mean, and that's the chorus. Like, you and me have a disease. You affect me. You infect me. I'm afflicted. You're addicted. You and me. You and me. I mean, yeah, this is like a cry for help for they're stuck in this.
I don't think I ever really picked up on the fact it's I want to drill you like an ocean. Like, well, that's an interesting line.
Yeah.
Adil, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, when I was younger, I thought this possibly could be about a woman, stupid me, which I think maybe there is some little sign of that. But yeah, I feel like a lot of people in the community don't understand about that drill you like an ocean line. It's a little,
I don't get it.
but yeah, the rest of the song is great. It definitely has a lot of ties to his addiction. I did not know about Hope I Don't Break Down. Learn something new every day.
Well,
Telling you that book, telling you, teaches you
I'm
things.
gonna read that book. I definitely have not read that, and it's gonna be on my list to read.
well, I on the yeah, like heavy lead curtain want to drill you. I mean, is that injecting? You know,
Yeah, I think
because
ultimately,
you're
yeah.
pulling the oil out of the ground.
You're kind of, yeah. It's a very descriptive.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and also like if I think of drilling in the ocean, I'm thinking about oil, I'm thinking about pollution, thinking about destroying the ocean. So same thing, if you're sticking a needle in your arm, you're destroying your environment of
yeah.
your body.
Hmm.
I just think it's just so descriptive and like, yeah. I picturing it, then like makes you cringe a little bit. Like
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and there's even a couple of the religious tones that pop up on this one, which is funny, considering that they're not a religious band. See, uh, but he says, "You and me were made in heaven. We have a disease." But later on, he's like, "I want to bathe you in holy water. I want to kill you upon the altar."
I love to strike you. Here's my confession.
Yeah, see, there you go. I didn't think of it. So
Yeah.
there's always this kind of like weird religious things in it. It's always like as older I've gotten, I've likened it more to like maybe it's perhaps kind of like that religious experience you have while taking drugs. Don't do drugs, so I can't speak to that. But at least I can take it how I interpret it.
I feel. It's a powerful song.
It is. Yeah, right.
And we should probably listen to it.
Sure.
Here is Infected, the 7th track on Bad Religion, Stranger Than Fiction. You know what this album needs? More guest appearances from other punk rockers. And you know who'd be great? Tim Armstrong from Rancid. Can we get him in here?
When in doubt, grab Tim Armstrong.
Television is the name of this song.
And this is also what's her name? Jonette from Concrete Blonde helped write this one.
Oh, really?
Yep. I remember listening to it. No lie. The first time I heard this, when I was like a 14-year-old kid, and all of a sudden Tim Armstrong comes on. I had not listened to Rancid yet at this point. I was like, "Who the fuck is this? What is this out of nowhere?" Because this is the opening side, too.
It is.
And you get this television song in it, and I'm like, "Who's this other guy singing?" And I was like, "Do they do two?" I didn't think they did two singer bands. And I learned. I was like, "Oh, it's Tim Armstrong," and I learned who Rancid is. That's my story about this song.
Yeah, I love that it was side B of the cassette, and it just comes out screaming. This is one of my favorite songs. Also, in the beginning, it's just yelling television. It makes you just want to run around.
I feel like it's almost impossible to say television as quickly as they do when they open this up because it's so fast. And then you hear Tim Armstrong coming in with the that part. I mean, that part cracks me up every time I hear it.
Mhm.
It's funny that it's another song about addiction. We're gonna open up the side with like consumerism of the television.
Yeah, you could rewrite this now instead of television. You can just throw a TikTok on there.
TikTok, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
TikTok, Instagram. Yeah, you can do anything.
We should redo this one. Yeah, I want to bask in your golden light and submerge. Like, I feel how warm this sounds, right? Your golden light submerge electric waves. I need my connection to the world outside. You could go outside
Right.
and connect that way, but no, we have to have some vehicle, some thing to connect through. So you can even you go TikTok, you go just social media in general.
But I mean, that's the thing. Like, you don't even have to change the lyrics for that part. Like,
No.
that's how you feel when you go on. You're getting your endorphins, and you're connecting to the out. You're hearing someone talk from somewhere else, and you're connecting with people, or at least you feel like you are. Yeah.
It's funny. I'm not. How do you feel about Tim doing the lyrics here?
How do I feel about it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I was, again, didn't remember that he was on this. So when this song popped up again in my re-listen, I was like, oh, I didn't remember Tim Armstrong being on this. I mean, I think Tim Armstrong has such a distinct voice that it's like it's so familiar to me, and it's like I like hearing it. I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know.
I remember he's got that. This is like early Rancid, so he's got that kind of drunken style to it, where like he just kind of mushes all the
Blurry.
words. Yeah, it's kind of mush. And I always felt I'm like, but Bad Religion writes such good lyrics. Not to say that Rancid doesn't, but I always because I could never. All I heard really was "Angry Wasp Summer," and
The
but
lyrics
like,
came out in this song a lot.
what was
Yeah.
that?
So let's see, for sure.
The cannon's running. Soon the Son of God is coming. Crackle, mental convolutions. I mean, you kind of don't get all the words in it, which is
I don't think he says half those words, by the way.
probably not. No, it's like just mushed.
Just slurs into
It's
But
like
that's early Tim Armstrong for you,
Yeah.
yeah.
Tim
like
Armstrong. Tim Armstrong's more of a vibe than a singer,
Sure. Yeah, it's like listening to HR and Bad Brains. You don't really get most of the words. They're just kind of like this. Opens his mouth and there's just audible sound is emitted. Jeff, do you think this song is an interesting connection to the next song called Individual?
It sure is. Do you want to explain why, Phil?
I sure do, because television is about the person on the inside being part of the consumerist nature of the masses on the television, while the next song is about the individual, and kind of how there's a lack of individual out there.
Yeah, this song is kind of uh, you know, try to avoid being the mindless clone. That's what they really want because everyone's watching television, become mindless clones in the last one. Now here you are. Avoid it. You got to be individuals. Run for cover. The first line is like
I know,
a warning shot.
right? We have reached critical mass. I mean, yeah, there's just basically talk about there is a lack of individuals out there, which is ultimately what their goal was, is to get more
Yeah.
people to be individualistic and to think about things for themselves.
Thin veil of intelligence. I mean, it's again, it's not. They're again, they're presenting the world as is. It's just not quite. It's Urbana is oozing like a bloated carcass with maggots cooking in the desert heat. Like, oof.
That is not a wonderful thought to think of.
No, no.
Oozing, oozing,
Oozing.
oozing, oozing, right? And then the people are congregating in visible circles, half apart and half apart, which I always thought was an interesting duality with that. That they're kind of broken. They themselves are broken. They're not together.
Yeah, and they're kind of a little too aware of the insignificance, pushing
Mhm.
on with like they know they don't matter. Nothing matters, but they just keep doing it.
And it's they even talk about later on that the individuals are up against the wall. It makes me think of Dead Poet Society in a weird way. Do you guys remember Dead Poet Society?
Oh, Captain, my Captain.
Right? And so Rob Williams brings the whole class out into the spoiler alert. If you haven't watched this movie yet, you've been warned. He brings the whole class out to the yard, right? And he tells them all to walk in any way they would like to walk. And so all the boys go out and start doing these funny. Like, it looks like the Ministry of Silly Walks. They're just walking around doing all the ridiculous ways. And they come across the one boy who's leaning against the wall. And Rob Williams goes up to him and said, "Why aren't you walking?" And I'm going to shorten it down to that. And the boy says, "I choose not to walk." That's the individual that we're talking about here in this song, where they don't ask for forgiveness when they're pinned up against the wall and under all this things that come with it, the siege of persecution. Yeah, the siege of persecution. They're the individuals, the ones standing alone at this point. They're choosing not to walk.
What do you think about that? I think that's great, 100%. But what about the line? Maybe you can't choose anymore. Is that the dichotomy of like maybe you can't be an individual anymore, and that might be an issue that you
It
have to.
could, because it gets to a point where you're like, I just want to be a part of. I want to just be accepted, or maybe you get too like I don't know, because look, I've gotten older. I don't fight every battle anymore. I don't. I'm much more selective.
Yeah, 4 out of 5 now instead of five out
Four
of
out
five.
of five. Yeah, I'm okay with that rating. I'm 4 out of 5. Can't fight them all. I will bring up. There's another. It's early in the song. There's a wafer. Yeah, undercover shelter by the wafer. I always wondered. I always thought the wafer was the body of Christ, whatever that was. The Eucharist. There it
Was
is.
it? Isn't that what he means?
I think so. That's what I always took it as. Okay, I
Well,
feel
because shelter by the wafer again, using religion as a reason to not be an individual. It's
right.
easier to just fall in line and follow everybody else.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
But yeah, to say wafer, I mean that's the A to C that he does, right? He's not saying like religion. He's like you have to think about that, which is awesome that you can like
Right.
sit there and ponder it. Also, languid wills, okay. Procreation without gain or purpose, languid wills and torpid minds. This is thesaurus country right here.
It is.
But it's awesome. It's like to get that to sing languid wills and torpid minds, like everything's slowing down, your will and your mind.
And it's surrounded by the oohs and ahs. It's funny. I haven't gotten this long in the episode. I didn't talk about the oohs and ahs at all. That's always
Oh yeah.
uh, my favorite thing on any record where they list it. It's oohs and ahs, usually by Greg, Brett, and Jay. But you take yours. I'll keep mine. That's a good ending. It's funny. It's separate at the end. And I don't think I really put that together. That you take yours and I'll keep mine. There's separation. They're
Yeah.
going to be individuals down there.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, to be an individual, you have to separate it at some point.
You do. You have to be separate and scream out, "Hooray for me!
Hooray for me!
Hooray for me!" I love this stupid song. Um, It's there's so much sarcasm in it. I just love the sarcasticness of it, where it says, well, that's what I'm accustomed to. So hooray for me and fuck you. It's very. We talked about the grouch earlier. Very grouchian.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I could see my father standing straight on, and you know,
If I remember right, and I don't, I think I do. I feel like I remember reading in Greg's book that. Okay, let me do my math here, because he talks about. Okay, I see my father, and imagine how his mother felt. So that would be his grandmother. And when she heard that her husband was dying, which would be his grandfather, if I did my
mhm.
math right. If I remember right, in the book, his grandfather was a religious person,
Hmm.
but I feel like that was his mom's side of the family. Now I don't remember. All right, people who are listening to the show and you're gonna fact check me. I'm probably wrong.
Well,
Um,
there's a way to tell you you're wrong, and that's to send you letters in New Hampshire. Just
oh
send them all
yes,
to Phil, telling him how wrong he is.
it's okay. You know what? I'm gonna write back to you. I'll say, "Hooray for me! I'm wrong," uh, because I'm not against saying that. Jeff, what do you think of this song?
Um, it's it's fun. I mean, he definitely uses the word irascible, which is awesome. um, but yeah, it's continuing the individualist theme here. Um, lyrically, it's a little more opaque because I think that's part of what he's trying to do. Uh, I do what I want, and you do, and you don't, and look at the shitty society you're locked into because of it. Like that's the vibe I feel from it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like there's a little bit of like the snarkiness of hooray for me is like, well, I'm not like the lemmings going to the sea.
Do you think it? I always wonder if this was like a really sarcastic song,
I think so.
like, but like from the perspective of someone who doesn't realize that they are a part of the problem, and they're like, but they're like looking at someone else and being sarcastic about it. Like, oh, look at you. You think you've got it still well, still bad or something. I don't know.
Well, isn't that like of the scene of punk rock in general? It's this whole thing of like we're individuals, we're punk rock, but yet we all dress the same and we all go to the same shows and like listen, have the same like ethos. It's like you even in being an individual, somehow you follow some kind of like
Rule structure.
yes. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe this is
punk rock
about
is.
punk rock,
Yeah.
right?
yeah,
I think this is again like what Phil said. This also has a big sarcastic undertone to it, and um, he's kind of minus maybe the first verse. He's really talking about like, this is me. I'm proud of what I do. This is who I am. If you think otherwise, that's why he says "fuck you," kind of thing. But overall, the song I love the music of this, like
Hmm.
one of
hmm
the best
hmm
songs in terms of the music, and the lyrics are pretty solid too. But I think it's sarcastic as well, kind of like Better Off Dead.
yeah, yeah.
Well, why don't we let the listeners decide when we play them? Hooray for me! Next, we're gonna slow things down a little bit here.
Yeah, it's like almost like a slow jam.
Yeah, we got Slumber coming on here. Is an appropriately named song for the slowest song on the album. Not like slow isn't boring or anything, but just even in the way he sings this one, he's taking his time a bit more.
But which is good because I feel like this is like the heaviest song on the album.
Yeah.
The choruses, at least.
Yeah, I don't know. I always wonder who is he speaking with because I feel like it's someone dying or
Mm-hmm.
like just close to death because slumber will come soon, so close to death. My favorite line is this, and I feel like it would be a nice gesture to hear toward the end. Is your life is historically meaningful and spans a significant time. Like it's a very long-winded way of saying you've lived a long and good life. It's like if you were writing a term paper in 10th grade and you need it's a word count. So you got to make sure you get all the words you can. So instead of just saying like you lived a long good life, you lived your life is historically meaningful and spans a significant time.
Well, whenever I have the opportunity to quote Neil Gaiman's Sandman death character, who says, she tells another character because she goes to collect the souls because she's deaf, and
Right.
the character says, "I wish I had more time," and she says, "You got what everybody else gets." a lifetime, and I love that because a lifetime has no actual
N-
determined amount of
No,
time. A lifetime is whatever a lifetime is, and yeah, they're all significant. And then the other thing I love about this song is it's basically kind of saying, look, we're all gonna die. It
yeah.
doesn't matter who you are. If you're rich, you're poor, strong, or weak, it doesn't matter. Death is the great equalizer. That's where we all end up.
Because the rich, the poor, the strong, the weak, we share this place together, and we pitch in to help it die, which is great for us. But but he's saying like life. He's mentioned it twice that life is just basically kind of short. Like knowing we're all in this together for such a short time anyway, and then if life makes you scared and bitter, at least it's not for very long. Like that's kind of him being funny a little bit in a song about death. That look, it's not long. Winter's coming, it's slumber will come soon. It's the same concept that life is what you make of it, and hopefully we make it meaningful in some way.
I think he's also saying like he's kind of reaching out to people who don't think that their life means anything,
Yeah,
and they think
Mm-hmm.
that, hey, like what am I doing here? Like what's this life for? And he's kind of just saying like, well, if you're scared and bitter, at least it's not for very long. Your life is still meaningful, whether it be for a family member, a friend, colleague, anything you do. Um, life is important. It's meaningful, and in the whole scheme of things, it really isn't that long. Whether you live
yeah,
for, even if you live for 100 years, you ask a 99-year-old person, they're gonna still say life is really short.
yeah. I mean, but it's interesting too because he's saying like I like that he's giving advice to like every life is meaningful, but like even if you can't, I think in the song, I guess what we're all saying is even if you can't get to that conclusion and believe that, it's gonna be over soon anyway. You know, don't sweat
Such
it.
a such a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing to it. Yeah, don't worry about it, guys. No one
It's
even
You
gonna,
know,
matters.
it's gonna end anyway. Whatever.
Yeah,
whatever.
die
It's
anyway.
almost over. It's interesting for an album that has what 15 songs.
Yeah,
I I really think the three from Hooray for Me to Slumber to the next one are really strong songs to have this late in the album, and
agreed.
each and they're all very different. Um, should we go on to Marked?
I like Mark. Let's go on to Mark.
All
Second
right,
appearance of someone from an Epitaph band because you're gonna have Jim Lundberg come on this from Pennywise.
Pennywise is here. Um, yeah, this is a great song.
I
This
love how
is
this is a fast song.
yeah,
So fast. Chorus is the
Wh-
best.
Of course, it's the best. Yes, it is. I always thought when I first heard it as a kid, it was if I'm a monster. I always heard I am a witty one. And I was like, I always thought that was better than a willing one because I felt witty was much more where the band is with Brad and Craig. But I like that. I love the opening. If I'm a monster, I'm a willing one. It's roller coaster rise, an enticing one on the tip of continuum flowing wave like through disorder. Carry me like a vessel to water. So through osmosis. Jeff, what do you think of this?
this song. I mean, it's a fast punk song. The the chorus. I mean, it's again. This is it's funny. They can get dense with their lyrics at times, but sometimes they get really simple.
Yeah.
But just everything you do in your life marks your soul, whether it's something you see, feel, touch, whoever you meet, like who you love, like everything affects your soul. Like it's all important. It's all gonna mark you. Whether it's good or bad, everything is changing you.
Which is a great 1-2 combination from the last song. It's
Yeah.
basically like it's making the argument for the last song when this one that like everything you do, every person you talk to, every person who's interacted with, they're gonna leave a mark on you. Now they're not saying that's good or bad.
Right.
They're just saying it's gonna leave a mark on you. Because trust me, I've met plenty of people in my life where I'm like, wow, you're a horrible human being, and you've left a mark on me because I know what not to do.
Yeah.
I wonder if he did this on purpose, like go from slumber to marked, and like go from television to individual, and even like the handshake to better off dead. I feel like
Yeah.
he has
Yeah.
like a pattern of just doing this, and with marked, again, just like a simple chorus. He's not like overdoing it. Like everything you see leaves a mark. Everything you feel, everything you touch, everything you make leaves a mark on your soul. And again, good or bad, It's all your experiences are who you are, your interactions with everybody, your relationships, any decision you make, it's going to leave a mark on your physical soul, and or not physical, but your
Yeah.
soul. And
Yeah.
whether you whether it's good or bad, if it's that's it. That's you. You're marked.
Well, and it goes back to the first line. If I'm a monster, I'm a willing one.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, look, I'm just existing, and I'm just getting marked by my experiences.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
I mean, yeah.
oh no, that's it.
So I was gonna say we are individually the culmination of our own experiences.
Yep.
Like I am this angry guy in New Hampshire because of my experience have reached me to this point where I'm the angry guy in New Hampshire. Hooray for me. Gonna connect back to another song. God, I love this song.
Sounds like we should play it.
Yeah, we should play this song.
All right, here's marked 12th song on Stranger Than Fiction. Here we go. Phil, what's the name of the next song?
It is an Inner Logic.
Ooh, Inner Logic. Interesting. Great title.
Great title. Great title, and I'm gonna tell you this right now. Has my absolute favorite line in all of this album, right out of the gate. I remember because I always imagine what it would look like for work, and I always imagine this is exactly what it must be like: automatons with business suits swinging black boxes. That is so great to hear. Like, wow, what a view of the corporate world.
Yeah, right off the bat, automatons with business suits.
Automatons with business suits and swinging black, they're briefcases, right? And just they're going
Yep.
sequestering the blueprints of daily life. They're asking for like, how do we live in a daily existence, contented and free of care? They rejoice in morning ritual as they file like drone and colonies to their office in the sky. Can we say how much we hate corporate America any more in that opening stanza? Which is ironic because they're on a major label at this point. God, I love this opening line. Mm, 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 mm.
I
Well,
mean,
the opening line, like I can envision it like animated, like just
Yeah, right? Yeah.
automaton with business suits, cleaning black boxes. And this is the song I was referring to earlier with like just talking about that 1% of America kind of running things. And as we go further on this in the song, you'll see. But yeah, right off the gate, this first
Right out of the gate.
verse
Right out
is
of the gate.
so good.
Jeff, what about you?
yeah, I mean, oh, sorry, go ahead. Oh, uh, same. I mean, like that's how it feels. I mean, this is just someone looking at the world and being like, nobody is using their inner logic and letting this happen. Like that's the thing. It's like there is an inner logic. We're taught to stay far from it. It's simple and elegant, but it's cruel and antithetic, and there's no effort to reveal it. Like if we stopped and actually looked at how everything is, how these people are living their lives and being forced to be automatons to make money for the more rich people, like you'd be like, why am I doing this? But we can't access our inner logic because everything is telling us not to listen to our inner logic.
Right.
Well, how many people also want to use their inner logic but are forced not to because they're in a situation where they can't make a change?
Right. They can't even. Yeah, they can't. They may have it, but it's like, well, I got to pay rent, so
I got to do this. I got to feed my kids.
Yeah,
I got to do something. So the inner logic may be there, but it's you're taught to stay far from it because you have responsibilities and obligations. And guess what? You're making money for someone that makes 100 times more or whatever it is. Corporate life, corporate way.
Well, he even says, I don't ask questions. I don't promote demonstrations. I just go with the flow. I go with how it is. I don't look for new consensus. I'm not trying to change anything. I don't stray from Constitution. This is how it is. If I pierce the complexity, I won't find salvation. I'm not going to make anything different. And just bald and over truth of the evil and deception. Like there's nothing. It's there's an inner logic. We know this is inherently bad, but we can't do anything to stop. No one's trying to do anything to stop it because we're taught not to.
And he's labeling evil and deception as corporations, like right there. He's like saying, hey, well, this is what it is. There's no inner logic against them, and just the bald and over truth of evil and deception just seals it right up.
And then he even brings in a little bit element of the police in there. That they are the decorated warriors drilling harmless kids on pavement, simulating tyranny under red alert. So basically blaming the kids. I'm gonna go a little more into maybe the poor that their existence is against the opulent. They go protecting the opulent, staging moral standard. They expect redemption of character and self worth. I
Yeah,
mean, this is like everybody's in on it,
yeah,
protecting those at the top.
exactly. And they feel like they're doing something moral because they're protecting the people at the top. Like, no,
Right.
you're, you know, I mean, the no equality, no opportunity, no tolerance for the progressive alternative. It's just like you're like, fuck. How,
There is nothing.
yeah,
Well, I forget one of the other songs talk about Big Brother. This is like complete and utter like totalitarian state for the 1%.
I also there's a verse here. The graduated mentors stroll in marbled brick porticos in sagacious dialogue. They despise their average ways, displaying pomp and discipline. They mold their institution where they practice exclusion on the masses every day. Like, to me, that's like we're excluding people from even growing out of this. You can't even move out of it
Right.
because you're not
Right.
even allowed in the institution to rise up out of it. Phil, I know we played a lot of songs on this album, but can we play this one too?
We could hell we could play all the songs on this album, but yes, we could play Interlogic. That works.
Yeah, this
All
has to
right.
be. Yeah,
Yes. A deal is mandated that must be played.
this is a
Adil's
must.
inner logic says this can't be a good podcast if we don't play
Can't be-
inner logic. Here is inner logic. The penultimate song, Bill.
Ooh,
Penultimate
the
song. What
penultimate
is
song.
penultimate song? Is what is. What it is. What it is? What it
What
is.
it is.
Yes, what it is.
Now, what it is not is what it is.
It is what it is.
There's a purpose and there's a goal, Jeff. That's what it is. It tells you that every time it's like I'm the one. I'm plural too. I accept it, but they exclude. I make sense of all this, but I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Oh, what it is.
What do you think it is?
I mean, it's everything, right? I mean, I am one in plural too. Again, we're juxtapositioning these opposites,
Right.
or things that don't really work. But we're all these. We are, as Walt Whitman says, contain multitudes, and we are all these things. We are virtuous and immoral, and there's a reason for all this, but I don't know what it is. Like, why are we like this? Why are we complex like this? Why are we, contradictions?
Again, back to the this is who we are kind of thing, and it's what it is.
Mm-hmm. Like, he doesn't know what it is.
It's almost
Doesn't know what it is,
dismissive.
but it is what it is. Whatever
Right.
it is,
That's
Yeah.
yeah.
this is happening because it is what it is. I don't know what it is, but it is.
Yeah.
It's so dismissive though to say that, well, that's the way it is, or that's what it is, or it is what it is. I'm like, but that doesn't mean. But that's so accepting of there's no change. It is what it is. Right. I'm like, that doesn't have to be like that though. That's also I think that's what he's getting at. Again, we're talking about 1-2s, right? This one's more of a 1-2-3 because it goes with the next song and just the consumerist nature of that. But it's like he's not saying it's good or bad again, because again, it's showing there's a beginning, there's an end, there's a climax. Some would contend, not all would say. It's just again this dichotomous language he uses once
Yeah,
again on this
things
album.
are
He's
gonna
just
happen.
yeah.
Yeah, things are just gonna happen. There's no reason behind it. I don't know what it is, and
Well, I'll tell you what it is.
Is it the
It's
20th century digital boy?
Yeah, it's a song that was on an album many years ago for them,
Right.
written 1990. That on their major label, they did the punk thing that many punk bands are suggested they do, which is re-record an older song because it's a banger, and
Yeah.
you're about to get a brand new audience. We've seen Green Day do this. Welcome to Paradise. We saw Jawbreaker not do this
Not do it. That's right.
because they were asked to re-record Boxcar for Dear You. They chose not to, and that didn't work out really well for them.
I really would love to hear what Boxcar, the new way they sounded, would have sounded like on that. But
Well, we've talked about this before. It's a deal. We've brought this up before because other bands have done this. I'm spacing on a couple others, but there's been a few. But like, it's interesting because like Jawbreaker's point was like we did that song, we're done. We're moving on. We're moving forward. But some of these other bands were like able to accept one song and do this because like, well, why not, right?
right.
I think if you're entering the major label, like I said before, you're being exposed to an audience that never heard you before. Like thinking this is the first Bad Religion album, right? Like you did.
Yeah.
So it's
Right.
interesting to have a moment to be like, oh, this song, it's actually an old song, but we redid it because we were so proud of it, and it really speaks about who we are.
Jawbreaker not like sticking to their guns and not doing it, right? Like,
Yeah.
I guess I could see that. Like, so for this album, Atlantic kind of didn't feel like there was a single um, out of all the songs they wrote, and they were like, you know what, we want to release a song, we want to release this, and we want you to re-record it. Just for that reason, you're gonna have a new audience, and uh, I guess if you were the members of Bad Religion, like how would you take that? Like, oh, we couldn't write a song good enough to get into the mainstream. I have to re-record an old one. Like, I don't know. I don't know if there's some kind of negative connotation with that or not. Or they could be like, hey, wait, this song is great. You play it all the time. Why don't you re-record it a little bit cleaner and poppier, and let's put it out there and let's see what happens. And then they did that, and look what happened. I think this is
Well,
their old album, right?
yeah. I mean,
And
it's huge, and it it's also a really important song. Again, especially in the nature. I mean, this song was written in 1990, and they're talking about that he's a 21st century digital boy. We are in the 21st century, and we are all 21st century digital people. You know, like this is it's consumerism. It's like we're attached to civilized barcodes. I mean, we have QR codes on everything. Even our stickers, this podcast have a QR code.
Right.
I don't know. It's like I think that I don't know if they would feel like, oh, we didn't write a hit song because I don't think that's their intention. But I think what they realize is, and I'm just guessing here, they're like, we're signing to a major label. We're going to hear a lot more people. Our songs have a lot to say about society. Then, and they're not shying from the hard stuff to talk about. So we put this on. It gets people hooked. We know it's a song that'll get people hooked. They're going to hear the other songs. So I feel like there is a win there.
It is a because Brett has admitted that he wants to write a pop tune, right? A big hit, a pop hit, and this is very much a pop hit. I mean, this is
Yeah.
everything you want in a pop hit, and it's just, which is funny because it's on Against the Grain, the album where this came from. It's buried in the middle of the album,
Mm-hmm.
and then on here it's the last track, and you're always you try to save your best for the last, right? Um, and I always found there I don't know if it's true. This is my own little vibe on just the dichotomy that is always Bad Religion. Is like you realize you take a song that is really against consumerism and capitalism, and then decide to re-record it to make it more of a pop hit for
Yeah.
your major label debut. I just find that irony hilarious.
Well, that's the cheekiness. That's the
Yeah,
yeah. They that's they know what they're doing. They understand that, but at the same time, it's like you gotta like shine a light on this, right?
right. Yeah,
you gotta poke a little bit at it, right? Like, Real Big Fish did it with Sell Out,
Yeah, yeah.
right away they did it. I know different genre, but same thing. Like they were like, yeah, yeah, we're selling out a little bit. You gotta, and this song compared to the one in Against the Grain is just so much cleaner,
so much cleaner.
better
Yeah,
produced. The ending is a little bit better too, I think.
I agree.
It's just yeah, it's they hit it out of the park with this version.
Yeah, it's a better version. It's just 100% it's a better version. And anybody who says otherwise is just one of those gatekeeper people who are gonna be like, well, no, it has to be the original. No, it doesn't. It can be re-recorded and revised, and that's fine. Look at Taylor Swift. She's gonna redo entire album. Why not?
Well, yeah, but she's also taking back ownership of her music, which was her masters were sold without her consent, and it's a terrible situation. So good for her.
I had a feeling I'd get a vibe out of Jeff real quick if I brought up the Taylor Swift. I'm glad I did.
You know how I do, Bill. You know how I
I
do.
I very much do. No, and so this whole song is anti consumerism, and it's got look, I'm a 21st century digital boy, not an analog, but a digital one, and I don't know how to live, but I got a lot of toys. My daddy's a lazy middle class intellectual. Mommy's on drugs. She's so ineffectual. Ain't life a mystery? You don't know what you're gonna get. How about that?
But
I can't explain. I can't explain it. It is what it is.
but again, what's changed 30 years later from this
Right.
song? Well, even longer because this song's older. But like, you know, we don't know how to read, but we got a lot of toys. We all have a toy that we're always on. That's digital.
That's digital.
And we're buying stuff off of it, and we're like, it's commerce. It's just everything is connected to it. And it's like it's easier to buy things than ever. We have so much toys.
We're a quarter into the 21st century now, and
Oh, why'd you do that? That was
it is, but they got the song correct, man. Like it
Yeah.
still exists. We are all 21st century digital adults.
Yeah,
still am.
digital folks. It's all of us.
Digital folks.
Yeah, and I'm sure at some point we're gonna eventually get to a point where we are fully digital and just living in virtual worlds and things like that. So
Yeah.
Chilling things to come.
Yeah. Hey, do you want to, Jeff? Would it make you feel better if we play the song for you?
I would love that, Bill.
All right. Why don't we go ahead and play this song? So here's 21st Century Digital Boy, the final song on BR's Stranger Than Fiction.
Phil,
Yeah.
I have finished my food. I've drank too much coffee.
Too much.
Deal. How was your burger?
It was delicious.
How does Swiss cheese? Does it melt? Because I find usually Swiss cheese doesn't melt as much as you would like it to.
The only issue with Swiss cheese is sometimes it gets stuck in the back of your throat.
Yeah.
But it is the best of all the cheeses.
Just like everything I want to say.
The best of all that's a throwdown to say that the Swiss cheese is the best of all the cheeses, because I know people who I might be married to who would fight you on that.
You think it's better than Munster?
It is.
Party? That
Brie?
Brie? Now I'm just naming cheeses. That's all I'm doing. All right, guys. Let's pretend like we know what we're doing for a hot minute. That was Stranger Than Fiction. Jeff got to connect with an album he hadn't listened to in a while, which is one of the most fun things about this show. Although it's not an opportunity for an album you have never listened to before, because that was me last year with the Hold Steady. Jeff, I'm now going to ask you in a series of questions. I would like your honest answer. I would like to know what you think, Jeff, is the best song on the album.
Well, it was the best song they had in 1990. It's the best song they had in 1994. It's my favorite Bad Religion song. So 21st Century Digital Boy gets the crown.
It's a great song. Adil, what about you? What do you think is the best song on the album?
And this is a tough one.
It's a hard album to cut through, I admit.
It's just so many good songs. I want to say it's got to be The Handshake.
This is so hard. Because this is like that gateway drug album for me that I was like, okay, I like where this is going and I can be with this. I guess I'm gonna have to go with it. It's just, for me, it's the song that got me right out of the gate, and that was Incomplete. I just remember hearing it for the first time and just being like, this is where I am. And so 30 something years later after listening to this album, which, by the way, album doesn't feel old whatsoever.
No.
I'm gonna go with Incomplete.
I don't hate
Jeff,
that one.
what song are you going to pretend does not exist on this album? You are going to skip it.
Well, in a shock, I'm going to skip the emo song. Never done this before in my life.
Unlike you, yes, sir.
Yeah, but Better Off Dead. It's fun. Don't get me wrong, but there's 15 songs in this album, so I'm always down to. I mean, I know they're not very long songs, but
no,
it's because you're forcing me to choose.
Which I am. It's an economics album. Yes, it's 15 songs under 40 minutes. I mean, that's pretty good. Pretty good time. All right, so you pick Better Off Dead. I get you. Okay. Adil, what about you? What song are you going to skip?
Again, a hard one. I don't want to skip any song, but it's if I had to take one off the list, I would say What It Is.
What It Is. Good choice.
It's What It Is.
So What It Is What It Is off. It's definitely What It's Not. Yeah, it's because I'm like, no, moving on. I go to television. I always skip television. I love Tim Armstrong, really do. Love him. I remember even first time I was like, nah, I'm just skipping it. So haters out there, haters are gonna hate. Just gonna shake it off.
I can't wait till Tim Armstrong shows up in New Hampshire.
Yeah, he's
and,
going
s-
to. It's
and
going to be.
throws rocks into all your windows.
I'm gonna play I'm Telling Tim. That's what's gonna happen. Jeff, what do you think is gonna be the sleeper song?
And this is an album with sleeper songs. Like this is one
Oh,
of like that's the thing. Like I would have said the handshake was a sleeper song because but Adil's already said it's the best one, so I can't go there. I'm gonna go with Slumber actually for the sleeper
wow,
song.
ironic, huh?
Yeah,
Slumber
yeah,
Sleeper.
yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like
No,
that.
but it's the slower one, and like it's I'm always here to have someone make me feel better about life and death. So thanks.
If thinking on my knowledge of BR, I don't think they do a slow song like ever again. I think this is like a one-time chance they do a slow one. Hmm. Okay. Adil, what about you, man? What do you think is the sleeper song
Yeah,
on the
I
album?
can't think of any other slow songs for sure. Not like that. But
I'm trying to rack my brain. I don't think there's
I
any
have
other
to.
slow.
I mean, they have a pretty big catalog. So, but I off the top of my head, nothing. Even if it's slow, like something like Sorrow, it's fast.
It's
Uh,
fast, and even then, the re-record they did of Faith Alone it's still kind of a faster
yeah.
song.
So
So it's
I'm gonna
yeah,
say yeah, I don't think. But Jeff stole my thunder. I was gonna say no pun intended, but my sleeper is Slumber.
I love it.
No, but that's good, and I missed the opportunity to say no pun intended. So you still got
Well,
that. You still
you
get
got
that.
that in there. You got them there. To me, Interlogic. I just think it's such a great, immaculate song that everybody should appreciate. Because I feel like it's got every aspect of a BR song you could possibly want. All the big words, the hooky chorus, the hooky guitar work. It's very reflective of the band.
Phil, when I was gearing up for this
Yeah.
podcast, now I listen to this album pretty regularly. I think still, but when you're asked to do a podcast and like really kind of do a deep dive into it, when I got into Interlogic, I would say that's my second sleeper. Like,
It's
and
such a good
I think like
song. Yeah.
I think that's the one we talked. I think with the most about other than
Yeah.
20%. I think there's a lot to say in that song, and that's definitely. If I didn't have this pun written for Slumber, I would have picked Interlogic as well.
It's one of those songs I just feel like it's so analogous of who they are. It's just representative of them as a band that I think it's an underappreciated song. And you know what? Makes me really happy to hear that you would have picked it too. I like that. You didn't, but it
I
makes
just
me happy that
tell
you
you,
would have
tell you.
you contemplated it. I appreciate that much.
That's all Phil needs.
I
Someone to
saw it.
contemplate to agree with him.
Just acknowledge that I might be right at some point. It's just really all I want. It's affirmation, really. Speaking of affirmation, let's affirmation a whole bunch of things.
Affirm.
Folks, affirm. Yeah, I'm gonna affirm things. Folks at home, um, this is a Spotify show, and Jeff, I want you to tell me how easy it is to do a Spotify podcast.
Well, if you wanted to do a podcast on just your own inner logic that you were always thinking about, you can do it right on Spotify. It's really easy. Podcasting for Spotify. Go on there, sit down, just uh, speak out your inner logic to the world, and upload it, and it's on Spotify.
I
So
bet
simple.
it'd be called "Hooray for Me," wouldn't it?
Of course, that's hooray for me.
Yeah.
Here's my inner logic
Here's my inner logic. There
on
we go.
display.
I. It's almost like it was uh, marked with a tiny voice. Okay, enough songs. So again, this is a Spotify show, so remember to follow us on Spotify. Also follow us on the YouTube. We do things there, and you can see us, and I'll wave hello for those who are watching on YouTube. We do have a Facebook. We've got a TikTok. We have an Instagram. We have a Threads. Jeff's been doing more with the Threads, which is really appreciated because I don't do anything with it. But I do stuff on Facebook, and I do TikTok and Instagram, so you can find me there. Would like to say thank you to our executive producer, Megan, who does all of our designs and puts up with me listening to this album every week.
Adil, thank you so much. I hope you will come out the diner again. Maybe bring some wolves. Who knows? We'll see. Um, little teaser for the future for you.
Thank you very
What's
much for
happening?
having me, and I think I can conjure up the wolves.
Excellent.
Do you own it on vinyl, Jeff?
I do not have any bad
You
religion
didn't?
on vinyl.
Oh, that gotta hurt. Adil, what about you? Do you do vinyl records?
I do, but I do not have this one.
Okay. I picked this. I actually recently picked this one up because I was like, the CD just isn't cutting for me. I want to see it.
Again, I do have it on tape though.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
won. Yeah, I can't beat that. That tape is pretty good. Tape is pretty good.
Does the tape still work? Have you tried it out?
I have not. I should probably test it.
Yeah,
I do have a cassette player though, so
that's cool.
Yep.
It's almost like you're the
21st century analog tape boy. Is that what you're
Yeah.
gonna go with?
yeah. That's what
Yeah, there it is.
Nice.
that's what I was gonna go with.
I don't. We're not gonna beat that. Congratulations, Phil. You ended the show on it.